guys, Danica. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, we are going to be reacting to Jubilee's newest video. Now, at first, I wasn't going to be watching that video. I think, what video did I have in plan? Let me see. There was a different video I was going to watch. I'm going to react to the Destiny video, one Democrat versus 25 Trump voters, because I haven't seen that. Or I was going to react to why the far left is always worse than the far right. Or we're going to do a video on hypocritical things that both Elon Musk and Trump has said. But this has just recently came out, the new Jubilee video. So I'm excited to check it out. So make sure you guys like and subscribe. And let's get into this video.
He's not necessarily
Alright guys, but they stand full.
Anti-vaccine, but he wants safe vaccines.
Yeah, so I'm pointing out that I think RFK Jr. is
And I do want to point out, I'm not very educated when it comes to vaccines and, you know, that whole spectrum. I really just know politics. But I do know that vaccines work, of course. So, yeah, let's get into it. I just want to put that out there.
You're saying he's being hypocritical.
Yeah, he's being hypocritical.
Absolutely.
And
Do you know who the number one hypocrites are? Healthcare providers.
The reality is, if we don't get vaccinated with Jesus, we will face God on Judgment Day.
I'm Dr. McCarthy.
Y'all, if y'all watched my last video, it was a liberal Christian versus conservative Christian woman. It was a lot, and that just gave me really bad flashbacks to that video. That video was so good, but the people were so, well, not the people, it was one person in particular that was just so irritating.
Kyle Warshawski, better known as Dr. Mike across social media. I'm a board-certified family medicine physician who makes content online, improving...
I think I know Dr. Mike. Doesn't he have a YouTube channel? Question mark? I'm pretty sure I saw his videos
today,
before.
I'm surrounded by 20 vaccines.
If not on YouTube, then on TikTok. And this is another long
My
video.
first claim is that anti-vaccine lies cost lives.
Jubilee loves these. They love these long videos. But I'm not gonna lie. If I was watching this by myself, I would love the fact that it's very long. But since I'm recording, I'm like, another long video to edit.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Doing fantastic. Excited to talk about health.
I just had a baby, 7 months old. And, you know, my baby, I was like, no, I'm not getting any vaccines. The doctors came in, they made me feel like a very bad mother for not doing that, right? I was very pressured. And then I had a family friend who had a baby at the same time, was a few months in, gave vaccines to the baby. And the baby had seizures and has had seizures since. And I also had a friend who I went on a mission trip with, and this pastor...
Again, I don't know anything about vaccines. I am not educated when talking about vaccines. More educated when talking about political stuff. But I do think that, you know, I don't think that vaccine in particular was harmful to that baby. I think that the baby just couldn't have the capability to consume that vaccine, if that makes sense. Or maybe it wasn't even a vaccine. Maybe it was just like a different type of issue during the birth, and you know.
Totally healthy.
Maybe it wasn't
two
the
young
vaccine.
girls, and this pastor literally got a heart attack out of nowhere. And the only thing was he took the vaccine. And there's many cases like that.
Well, first of all, congratulations on the birth of a 7-month-old. The fact that anyone made you
I'm
feel
here.
bad in the
I can
healthcare
listen.
system, I
I'm
feel like is a
here.
failure on us.
I have to get my
in the
coverage.
healthcare system, so I'm sorry that happened to you. In healthcare, it's very difficult to predict the future because there are so many unknowns and there's so many variables.
Where's my
in
cover
healthcare.
at?
There are things that are a lot that are outside of our control, and we try to do the
Guess
best
I'll just use my
with the
sheet.
limited amounts that we can control. So when we see two things happen simultaneously in healthcare, sometimes we think they have caused one another. But unless we see a pattern of that happening over and over again on a large scale,
Very
it's
true.
more likely that this is just a coincidence of things happening at the same time.
Very true. So, yeah, I think that people do jump to conclusions. Like, you don't know like what that health issue is. You don't know the real reason of the death. You just saw that she got vaccinated and that she passed away, but it could have been something pertaining to a health disease. She could have had something like a heart attack. You know, it could be any of the sort.
For example, I have a friend of mine who's a physician who vaccinates children very regularly. And they were about to give a child the vaccine. And before giving the vaccine, the child had a seizure. They went on and had more seizures throughout their life and ended up actually dying at a very young age because of a seizure disorder. The vaccine was never given. Had that happened 2 minutes later, what do you think would have been in the mother's mind and in the father's mind?
Vaccines caused it.
Other than, I definitely think that vaccine caused that problem.
I'm saying.
But it could have just as easily happened before, which it did, and the vaccine wasn't responsive. So it's very difficult when two things happen at the same time to be able to make an exact reason as to if that's what happened.
I'm saying.
So what we do is we admit that there's.
Yeah, I'm
safety
getting
issues
less
with vaccines.
nervous being on camera. I love
They're
that
not
for me.
100% safe. Nothing in life is 100% safe. Driving or walking here today is not 100% safe. I could have a heart attack right now. Cannot predict it. But what
Okay,
we can do
Mike.
is try to do the best that we can with the information that we have.
You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
He's in every Jubilee video. Like, I'm so sick of seeing him. But I love you though, I guess.
Hi, Dr. Mike.
I feel like you're like he's in every video.
Got that wrist flowing. I'm actually a fan of your channel. I've been watching for a while.
Thank you.
Yeah, I knew he did. I'll be seeing his videos.
Wow, okay.
I think a lot of mistrust
Like on
in
my,
my eyes
homepage.
were open during the whole COVID pandemic.
Why?
Institutions that were there. I used to be in the military, so when I was in the military, I signed my bodily autonomy away. If they told me to do something, I did it.
And thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks.
No, I say that in all seriousness because I think a lot of times that kind of becomes habit
Sorry
just to say thank
guys,
you.
my
but I really-
eyes
I appreciate
like
that.
really
So,
hurt right now because I have my
seeing,
glasses on.
you
But
know,
when I have my glasses
how
on,
Dr. Fauci
the camera
was
gets
just
very
pardoned,
reflective
that's
in
a
my
whole other
glasses, so I can't wear
discussion.
them. But they hurt.
Seeing how like we were sold a bill of goods that we, the American tax dollars, paid for, while these pharmaceutical companies reaped millions and millions of profits on. And I think that caused the goalpost. Oh, the vaccine, this mRNA vaccine, it's going to prevent.
I mean, you know what? I wouldn't even be mad at that because I would rather have my money go into being able to. Like, I would rather have my money being able to go into a vaccine like that and cure lives, like, and stop people from dying. That's like being mad that your tax dollars is going into cancer research. Like, I have no problem with that. Like, what's the problem with your money going into your operation that's going to help the betterment of everyone and stop you from getting sick or somebody else from getting sick?
The transmission of COVID, it's going to prevent you from getting it, and others. If you don't get this vaccine, you hate your grandmother. You're going to kill all these people. If you guys
I mean, it is a
do your
risk.
duty and get it. Well, you know,
It is a
my
risk.
grandmother got it, and she died. I saw her take her last breath,
Sorry.
and it's a very profound
Don't
thing to
apologize.
see someone that you love take their last breath and go on to whatever happens after.
Of course.
So when those seats, and it turns out the 6 feet of social distancing was not based on anything, how can you not expect people to question these higher institutions that are deemed to look out for the well-being of people and they don't?
It's a great question.
So just like with Black people who don't trust the government because based on the Tuskegee experiment in 1932, actually 40 years after that, the New York Times, they actually infected them with syphilis and they let them infect their families, their friends. It ran rampant. So how do you expect certain people when they've been burned by the government to
I love that
also,
case.
all right, well,
I
I'll
love
trust you.
that.
Ultimately, it's people's choice. Just like if someone
I learned about the Tuskegee
refuse a treatment, if they get it
3 years
in
ago.
AMA form against medical advice. I think it's all up to people's choice and their autonomy.
There was a few topics that you touched that I think are really worth discussing. First,
I love how
autonomy.
gentle he is.
I believe that.
This
and that
can be a
is the
sensitive
sole
topic.
principle by which we practice medicine. Vaccines fall in a unique category because your decision on vaccinating your child and then sending them to school can impact other children in that school. So much like
I'm saying.
drinking and driving as an example, your choice to do that puts your life at risk, but it also puts others at risk. So we deem that as dangerous for the general public.
Why are you shaking?
what
That is 100%. That's true. If you had a contagious disease, would you willingly would you have your kid go to school knowing that they have that type of contagious disease? That's like going to school and not getting vaccinated for the flu, and then your child has the flu, and then they go to school and now they're harming other kids, and now the other kids have the flu. Yes, that is 100% true. You are putting other people at risk because you're not getting vaccinated.
When it comes to our government, our mandates, pharmaceutical companies, there's absolutely reasons for distrust. I love that everyone in this room is a skeptic.
That's
and I
true.
encourage skepticism. I don't think anyone
Always
should
do your
just go
research.
into a doctor's office and say yes, 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 yes. In fact, I love when my patients question me. I empower them to ask questions. Doctors sometimes get this attitude where they're like, oh, you Googled before coming here? Google search doesn't replace my degree. No, that's not how we're supposed to be. What I get excited about is if you Googled and you have questions, now I know exactly the route I need to take to help you make a decision that's right for you and your family.
Okay, pause. You've been voted out by the majority.
Why?
Please return to
Thank
your
you so
seat.
much. I appreciate
You know
it.
what?
I mean,
For these Jubilee videos, I really do, and he's in a lot of Jubilee videos too.
How you doing?
pleasure to meet you.
Yes, Root Scott. Good to meet you as well.
Love the jacket.
Thank you so much.
I do feel like they do need
I
new
really wanna
people,
talk to you
but
about this
I
claim
can't lie.
based on
If I was
all of the other things that are
had the
causing
opportunity to do
disease,
Jubilee
the chronic
videos all day, I
conditions
would
that
do
are in this
it.
country,
So I can't
all
even
of the
blame him.
metabolic issues, and this is stemming from colonization. All of the other things that are causing disease, the chronic conditions that are in this country,
I'm
all
on
of the
Five Below.
metabolic
I'm making
issues,
sacrifices
and this
for
is
y'all.
stemming from colonization. Putting smallpox blankets on indigenous cultures, sterilizing people in Puerto Rico, Honduras, all of these different things that have happened. And if you look at Africa, oh, by the way, Bill Gates did say something interesting. The next war will be fought with biological warfare. And I think that was raising eyebrows, especially when you look at the Kissinger report, right? For those of you who don't know about the
He has a
Kissinger
lot of
report,
confidence.
It's all about pretty much
I do want to say, I don't think that this is the point he's trying to make, but I do want to say that, when it comes to cases like this, like the pox, and especially cases that were older than us, you have to really take into account the type of what they call treatment during that time.
reducing the population.
We have developed a lot
so,
from there.
I don't know how you can make this claim and really defend vaccines in the nature and the world that we're living in, where we are actually going away from nature. And the further we get away from nature, the more diseases we will see. So, I'm very passionate about this, and I want to be able to have a real discussion with you because, yes, you're a medical doctor, but this is also a system that J.D. Rockefeller started, getting rid of all types of indigenous practices, and this land is stolen land. So when we're not even honoring the source, when we're not honoring the land, the ancestors,
Very
the
cultured.
ancestral intelligence, the real AI, when we're not even honoring these things and we're just supposed to trust science. No, I trust my scientists. I trust Dr. Sebi. I trust Dr. Arasatham. I trust Dr. Yaqui. Because this system is not for us. It's not built for people like me. It's not built for any of us. Because even the opioid crisis, we saw a lot of Caucasians suffering from that. So how can you sit here and say that this vaccine is killing people when this system is currently killing people? When we even have to have an administration that comes in now and says, "Ooh, we got to start looking at all of these different toxins."
I want to do something real quick. And I know this is probably going to cause my video to be a little bit more longer. How many cases of people, don't mind my spelling or my grammar, please. How many cases of people have currently died from vaccines only? I know it's not how you spell vaccine. Just leave me alone, please. Only 55? National Library of Medication. More than 8 billion doses of COVID-19 vaccinations have been administered globally as 44.29% of people fully vaccinated. People are still afraid of the side effects. There have been 35 cases of death after COVID-19 vaccines recorded, and a casual relationship has been excluded in 17 cases. Yeah. Okay, I'm sure they're not just talking about COVID-19 vaccine, but I want I want to see if there's like a an estimate closer for 4 million children lacking vaccinations, top causes of death in children in less than 5 years old. Wow. I want to see if there's like as of December, there have been 10,400 reports of death following the COVID vaccine. Why is there so many different answers? Mine said 55. Vaccine, it's another following vaccine. It seems like a lot, but it's part of the human perspective, only 45. That means only 100 those have been linked to a death report. Meanwhile, COVID-19 itself kills 1.59. Okay. I mean, that is true. Reported that the vaccine doesn't mean the vaccine was the cause. Yeah. Okay, so these haven't been proven that these are caused by the vaccine. Okay, so I'm gonna stick with this one. Because these haven't been reported, I'm guessing, with COVID. But this one told us that it wasn't. This one told us that it might have not been the cause. Over 40 deaths. Okay. I gotta say, just from that alone, though, like, you can definitely see the perspective of how many lives is saving versus when you're not vaccinated, how many lives you're killing.
In the food, in the medicine, in the soil. I don't think it's fair for us to take this vaccine when we're already being forced to take polluted food.
When you say take this vaccine, which vaccine are you talking about?
Well, really all of them. It should be a choice because even when I was younger, I didn't take as many vaccines as the children have to take now. These children are sicker. They're going through more metabolic issues. They're having mental health issues. And now I don't think it's just the vaccine. It's
That's not because of...
that's perpetuating this type
Yeah,
of lifestyle.
that is true.
That child who was even in the hospital under those fluorescent
That's definitely not because of
surprised
vaccines.
that they had a seizure before because this is an environment that is not conducive to life. This thing that I'm wearing on my chest is called...
Okay, I feel like he's debating a whole different like thing. I think that, you know, this topic is mainly about anti-vaccines cost life, not the system or, you know, any other exceeding factor. I think they're just specifically talking about vaccines. So I think that he's kind of gone way off point.
Y'all replace this. Y'all replaced our cultures. This life representing thing, you replace it with death culture. This is not a healthcare system.
Kind of
it's
a ramble.
healthcare system. And honestly, I cannot sit here in good faith and not represent all of the people who have come before me.
Yeah, absolutely. I respect that. I came to the United States as an immigrant living on welfare. So I got put into this same system that you're describing. It's a shitty system. The world is changing in ways that make our lives more unhealthy. We're eating more processed food.
True.
We're exposed to more chemicals.
But it has nothing to do with vaccines.
Usually as a result of products that we actually enjoy. So when I complimented you on that great jacket, when someone wears a specific pretty strap on their Apple Watch, there's chemicals in there. There's forever chemicals in there. So for every amazing thing that we have in
chemicals
society,
in your
there's
necklace.
drawbacks. The good part about our society is that we're constantly monitoring those drawbacks and are trying to create solutions for our own problems. So when I think about our current healthcare system, where I think it needs to do better is it needs to focus more on prevention rather than cures. Agree or disagree?
1,000%. Yes, sir.
Do you know how we can do that?
Not through the vaccines, but one way we could do that is connecting more to nature. One way we could do that is making sure that we're not poisoning the food. One way we could do that is
I didn't
not
hear
through
what
the
you said.
vaccines, but yes, sir.
Do you know how we can do that?
Not through the vaccines, but one way we could do that is connecting more to nature. One way we could do that is making sure that we're not poisoning the food. One way we could do that is treating each other.
But I don't think that has nothing to do with vaccines. Like,
respect and
doesn't.
actually getting rid of these systems that are putting us against us.
That's a whole
This
different
divide and
topic.
conquer, the media manipulation and all of this fear tactics that was pushed during this vaccine COVID mumbo jumbo. This was totally.
Do you think we should do all of it?
Okay, sorry, pause. You've been voted out by the majority.
They didn't even have time to talk to his rambling the whole time. But okay.
Hi,
Hello.
Doctor.
Pleasure to meet you, sir.
How are you? Pleasure to meet you. So I'll let you know I'm Tom. I'm a police lieutenant from northern New Jersey.
Okay.
And what struck
Local.
me about your statement about body autonomy
I look like a police officer.
and the COVID vaccination. What would you say if I told you I had 3 daughters and my spouse and I had differing opinions on whether our children should be vaccinated with the COVID vaccine?
Good question.
And a judge
Happens to majority of families.
orders that vaccine be injected into my daughters. I'll give you a little bit of data first.
okay.
And this was part of my reasoning with the courts. Risk versus benefit, correct? From 2018 to 2023, if we trust the CDC, their numbers say the most deadly thing for our children, the number 1 deadly thing, do you happen to know what it is?
Guns.
Accidents. Not necessarily guns, but accidents. Do you know what the number 2? And I'm going from children from 10 to 14 during the height of the pandemic.
Well, a little bit before the pandemic as
A
well.
little bit before, so the numbers are a little bit bigger.
I don't know if that's
The number
completely
2
true. I don't
was
trust Jubilee's fact checks.
suicide.
I have to look
You
that
know
up
where
myself.
COVID is on that range of dangers?
Very low.
Very low. That population is about 21 million children in the United States between 2018 and 2023.
Yeah, because if I'm not wrong, children aren't really the people at risk when it comes to COVID-19, no? It's usually older people. So COVID-19, of course, is going to be at the top of dangers for children. Now, something like the flu, that might be different.
There were about 4,000 to 7,000 accidents, about 1,000 suicides. Do you know how many deaths there were from COVID?
No, not offhand.
69. In New Jersey, where I'm from, the height of the pandemic, do you know
children-
how many deaths?
204 deaths. Yeah, but children weren't really the people at risk when it came to COVID-19. So this point is just like not really going through at all.
There were.
Are y'all leaving?
I don't know. I guess I have to wait for more.
0. Now, are you familiar with the VAERS database?
Yes.
So that's for adverse reactions to vaccinations.
Yes.
During that time,
They're shaking their head like, but his point isn't solid. That's not a good comparison at all to compare to the cause of death for children. Like COVID-19 was never branded as something that could be at risk to children. Like yes, of course, like children could get sick from COVID-19 and it might cause some medical issues. Or just like, you know, it could come off as a regular type of like a cold or a fever. But COVID-19 was never, they never promoted it for at risk of children. It was always at risk for your elders, older people that were always at risk when it came to COVID-19. So his point is just not landing.
this is about 6 months out of the
I hope
period
Mike
from December
talks about that.
of 2020 to July of 2021. The VAERS database, which is the only database we have, there were 14,000 post-COVID vaccination deaths. So how
19,000 total adverse events listed with deaths under the various self-reporting system for all individual websites and submitting a report year does not mean a healthcare person a vaccine cause. Yup, see? Is this the one that we read? I don't know if this fact check is the one that we read,
But I do remember, like, we just looked over to see the cause of death, and they never specify if it was cause or if it contributed. They're just saying that after that vaccine, this is what happened. You never know what the external factors could have been. You never know if they had other type of health issues. So, you really can't go based off of that. It doesn't land, like I said. It doesn't.
If you're looking at risk,
Because you really don't know the
or
cause.
benefit, is injecting a child, upholding what we call the Hippocratic Oath, right? We talk about the Hippocratic
And I
Oath,
think that
we extrapolate
the whole thing with kids getting vaccinated, it was just that they don't, it's like the flu. You don't want that to spread and get contagious, and that can possibly go something to the older parents or the older grandparents that were truly at risk of getting sick from COVID-19 and possibly dying.
There are times when I had to take a life to save one. I don't necessarily think that applies to you, doctor.
And this is what I was trying to say. Before going into this video and not hearing their sides and their opinions on the whole thing, I just, like, immediately when I see anti-vaxxers, I just think of, wow, that person must be a really selfish person to put other people at risk. But seeing their opinions afterwards, I can see their point, but I can't get over the fact that you willingly will not get your kid vaccinated, and because of that vaccination, and you're not getting your kid vaccinated, they get sick, or if it's some type of other deadly disease that other kids getting sick, they might spread it to their parents, and it's a whole thing. And especially like with something as big as COVID got so big globally because it was passed around and around and around and around and around. And after people started to get vaccinated, it slowly started to dim down, even though it's still active today. But I just feel like something as big, like it's way bigger than your opinions. Like, this is the health of many. This is not just the health of your kid, but other kids around them. And not even kids, just people around them that you're putting at risk. And I don't really like that. I don't.
Does not.
Maybe you can give your viewpoint, whether maybe you're for or against, a court ordering the children to be injected with something that there is no harm to. But now we're seeing actual harm with the vaccine. They didn't die from the disease. They're dying from the vaccine.
Yes.
No. I'm gonna let Mike. I've been talking a lot. I'm gonna let
Your point
Mike.
is very logical, and you're very well researched, and I applaud that because most people will go off their feelings as opposed to looking at the data as you did. So I appreciate that. When you point out that there's been 69 deaths, you said?
Correct. Between
From the
that
CDC
time,
data.
if we trust it.
If we
yeah.
trust it. And then there was 13,000, 14,000 deaths?
14,000 according to the VAERS
VAERS
database.
Are you familiar with how the VAERS database works?
I am.
Do you know who can report to the VAERS database?
It's a voluntary report system,
By
so
who?
it's open.
By
It's
who?
open, either to patients, medical providers,
Loved
anyone.
ones, anyone. During a heated political time, during which people are very angry.
I didn't even think about that.
Reporting things that
I
do
see where
happen
you're going,
during
Mike.
a pandemic. Isn't it possible that there's people reporting things that after we look at it and judge it off of the VAERS system, that it is in fact not shown to be causative, but in fact a coincidence or correlation?
Clock it.
So, yes.
She knows. She knows.
Correlation.
It's going in a direction.
Causation. But I'll give you another data point to chew on. When I was a law enforcement officer, I saw people that were dying, and then when they were assessing the cause of death, they had a range of other morbidities. And just because they died with COVID, they didn't die from COVID. But getting back to the children, none of them did.
I think the reason why 0 children died is because we immunized so many, A. B, the fact that the court ordered you to do it, it's not really my place to judge. Because you have 2 parents that have 2 decision-making capacities, and someone has to make a decision. I don't know what's right. I leave that to people who are smarter than me. I can talk about the science of it all. And when we look at the science, yes, COVID is a low-risk proposition for children, but it's not a zero risk. When we look at the COVID vaccine, especially at the peak of that pandemic, when we were seeing hospitals overflooded, when we were losing people left and right, that was our sole way out of that pandemic. So the fact that 0 children died with the vaccination rate that we had, I suspect that.
How are you gonna tell him it's not true? Sir, I don't think you were in them hospitals. I don't think you were in them hospitals. Hold up. Let me see something real quick. Y'all, this video is gonna be so long. I apologize. Like, look at this. You're gonna tell me that isn't true? Oh my God, these two ads.
Tonight, the continuing surge of coronavirus cases creating long lines of Americans anxious to get tested.
I'm trying to get COVID tested. You can see this line that goes down.
So yes, people were constantly coming in and out of the hospitals.
Have already started dialing back the number of what they call elective procedures or non-emergent surgeries.
The hospitals were jam-packed. Of course, he's telling the truth. Yes, if a global disease is affecting a lot of people, then of course the hospital is going to be very packed like that.
When we look at the COVID vaccine, especially at the peak of that pandemic,
yes,
we were seeing hospitals overflowing.
That's just like common sense. Of course, if it's not a peak, if it's not a peak of a global
way out of that pandemic.
Sorry,
yes,
I'd love to go with that.
Vaccine played a major role in making that happen.
All right, I'm sorry. We're out of time.
I'd love to go with that one.
Hey, before we go any further, we want to take a straight arrow and bias the expense with strengths and tap description.
I Jubilee, love you.
Thanks again.
My next claim is that vaccine-acquired immunity is better than natural immunity.
She's in a lot of videos too. Golly, I think I saw her in like the last 5 videos. God, they guys recast. This is someone new.
My oldest 2 children do have vaccines. My 3rd child, he got a vaccine that the doctor said were safe that caused him brain issues for the rest of his life, and he has arrested hydrocephalus. I want to continue to say my youngest 3 children have no vaccines at all. They're perfectly fine. They're advanced. My son has permanent brain injury. So they say vaccine immunity is better, but as a child, when I got vaccines, I ended up with spinal meningitis. I had chicken pox twice. I almost died. But my 3 children vaccines are perfectly fine. They've been traveled over 20 states during COVID. They've never got COVID. They've never got sick. Just a healthy diet, keeping them away.
Well, that's some strong kids right there.
Is good. Did you know that COVID
Not everyone
has a patent
does.
and natural illnesses can't have patents? Did you know that every illness dated back to polio has a patent? The only thing that doesn't have a patent is the common cold. Did you know
Proven
that
false.
Fauci funded-
Well, okay, Jubilee or their fact checks are okay today. I won't give them the best, but they're okay today. You guys know how biased they like to
make the
be.
vaccine more, or not the vaccine, make COVID more deadly. Vaccine immunity is not really a thing because they cannot guarantee it makes anybody immune. There's more side effects from getting a vaccine than to not get a vaccine. The chances of getting illness not vaccinated versus to
I would
getting
argue
vaccinated
against
is a lot
that.
higher
I'm gonna stop
than
pausing.
somebody that doesn't eat toxic
Got a lot
crap,
left.
practices good hygiene. They're more likely to get illness vaccinated versus not vaccinated. There's studies that show unvaccinated children are more healthier. In Japan, they don't start their vaccine schedule, I believe, until 2 years old. Autism is almost non-existent. And this is something that needs to be documented. Dated back to polio, everything has a patent except for the common cold. Mad cow disease, Spanish flu, COVID, everything has a patent. So that leads me to believe Big Pharma has been ruining our people for generations since the Great Depression, since, like he said, Rockefeller agreed to fund medical schools and the education system around.
Mike is so
1920s.
patient.
Since then, illnesses have increased and increased and increased and increased.
Sorry guys, my eyes are hurting.
And all we ever needed was to take care of ourselves and have good hygiene.
Something I think our healthcare system doesn't do enough is say, I don't know, and I have no.
I'm sorry. I know he probably hears this a lot. Because I feel like it's like every black man with them type of dreads and that complexion and that overall vibe. But he looks like Bob Marley. I had to say it. You know what? I got called Bob Marley once by my family. It was not.
was to take care of ourselves and have good hygiene.
Oh, it's not okay.
Something I think our healthcare system doesn't do enough.
But he
is,
does.
I don't know, and I have no idea about Dr. Fauci's
Probably gets it a
patents.
lot.
I don't know about patents on viruses. I'm a family medicine physician. That means I work in a clinic where people come in with either an acute complaint, something's going on with them, or they're coming in for a preventive physical where we can get ahead of things and make them healthier by preventing illness. In fact, if you think about where pharma's profits are, if pharma had to choose between preventing an illness or to treat an illness for the rest of someone's life, financially speaking, they'd probably want to just treat someone for the rest of their life.
Exactly.
But that's not what vaccines are. Vaccines prevent that illness. They prevent it from happening. And when you brought up the subject of autism, I think it's an important subject, and it's a subject that's been largely debunked by the
Not at
entire
all.
world community.
Not at all. I've seen studies that say otherwise, doctor. So I don't know if you're going off Rockefeller's medicine or you going off of holistic medicine as well. As a scientific mind, you're supposed to observe everybody's hypothesis.
And it was
not just Rockefeller's
debunked.
medical schools, and that's why I feel
You know,
like
if a research was classified as debunk, then that's not something that I would take into consideration. Why would I take into consideration false information?
you got most of your knowledge from, and maybe you should branch out into holistic medicine because vaccines have never been the answer. They were created to separate us from spirituality and consciousness. If you look at the ingredients, there's nothing healthy in vaccines. Formaldehyde, all types of stuff. So none of that prevents. There's
Very a lot of
everybody got
spirituality here.
vaccines, still get illnesses. I've never seen any prevention of anything.
The prevention from vaccines comes from prevention of death and serious illness. And we've seen that when you study that, not just in the US by the Rockefeller system that you described,
Right.
one of the largest studies in the world surrounding vaccines and autism in children came from Denmark with over 500,000 children. That is not a US system, that is not a capitalist system, and they found that there is no pattern.
That's not
So
true. I've
I'm
seen
trying to
other
branch out as much as
Pause.
possible.
You've been voted out by the majority.
Okay.
Please
Thank you
return
so
to your
much.
seat.
A lot of people. Why you look at him like that?
Hello, how are you?
So I want to take a minute and put the ball back on your court because you mentioned herd immunity earlier, correct? Well, was COVID one of the most contagious viruses we've had, pretty much?
I don't know, historically speaking, but it was definitely incredibly contagious.
Okay.
In fact, because it wasn't so deadly,
It was none of
was
so.
the reason why it was such a problem.
You want herd immunity. How would we achieve herd immunity if a virus is so contagious that wouldn't it spread across the population before we get it all vaccinated? Like,
Not every vaccine can create herd immunity, but it can.
Ah, shoot. Y'all came off. Yeah, this is what I've been using. I literally just got this yesterday, but because it doesn't fit on my computer the way I need it to, it falls down because of this arch I got. It doesn't stay how I need it to stay. So give me 1 second while I fix this real quick, y'all. Fall off again. We got a lot more left in this reaction, so I don't got no time for no games. I'm gonna have to skip over a couple stuff because I don't want this video to be too long, but it might end up being too
Some of the most
long.
reviewed studies in the medical field. I don't see why we have to deny their science and their expertise and go with this set of people.
I think when you look at the grand scheme of things, you have to look at consensus. And when you look at consensus, not just the United States, you look at the WHO. This is a world organization. This is not a United States organization. In fact, we just pulled out of the WHO funding-wise. So
We did.
this is the most
The World Health
bias you can
Organization.
get. Can you erase human bias from research? Absolutely not, because it's done by us, and humans are inherently biased. When you talk about Pfizer's passing
Let me be
stage,
careful.
or whichever organization,
I'm
you
scared it's
choose
gonna fall
from
again on
the
me.
side of things, to be skeptical of
I
them
taped it
is
up,
so
though.
important, and the way that they've
Looks
been
crazy.
lacking transparency for a long time, especially when it comes to pricing and the way that they've chosen their development of medications. I'm the first person to admit that that is valuable. But when we say Pfizer, where we say Purdue or one of these pharmaceuticals, There are people that are working there that are researchers that you're talking about. The shareholders, the people that are investing in those companies, are a different set of people. So when we get data from Pfizer and is brought to the advisory committee in the CDC or the FDA, these are independent bodies that are trying to verify through a peer review process if that is true. They're trying to do their best with the knowledge that we have. Will we have perfect answers? Will there be mess ups? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean you just throw everything out the way and say, hands up, we failed before, so we can't fail again.
I would agree that there's a difference between mistakes and deception. So deception is an intent. You're intending to have malice towards someone, right? You're intending to make more money by lying to the public. You're intending to make more money or more profit by not showing all the clinical studies that were conducted that show adverse reactions to the thing that you're putting forth. So that's where I would also make a delineation that there's mistakes, which we can all make, and I would also say science can make mistakes, but then there's this other section, which is an intention.
How do you judge intention?
That's the thing, with these kind of companies, we have to assume good intention.
All right, sorry, you've been voted out by the majority.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Hello, pleasure.
Pleasure. So knowing that there are side effects that do come along with the COVID vaccine, which is irrefutable, it's a risk management. And in any circumstance, if there's a risk, there must be a choice at all times. Would you agree with that?
Well, there's always a choice.
Well, there wasn't a choice September 9th, 2021, when Biden instituted the OSHA mandate with all federal employees and every business over 100 employees. Would you agree with that?
I still think it was a choice.
So when you say it wasn't a choice for all the service members that were part of the military that refused the vaccine, they were dishonorably discharged, did they have a choice?
They had a choice.
Yeah,
And what,
that is true. Regardless, you had a choice. You either get it or you don't. I mean, the choice only came with consequences. That's your point, I guess you're trying to make. But they had a choice to take it or not. And the same with his last example. I mean, if you took it, then I guess you could stay in that position. If you didn't, then you had to go. But it was a choice regardless.
was their choice?
I'm not saying whether or not this is a fair choice or if I support the choice, but
It's a choice.
Okay.
Just like with children, in order to go to a public school where by choosing to not vaccinate your child, you're potentially putting other children at risk, you could choose not to put them in a public school and therefore not be mandated to get the vaccines.
Everyone has the ability to make a right choice for them and their family. And if you are able to fully understand...
Like that choice, that is a choice. Like, come on, y'all, let's use our heads. Let's use our noggins. You have a choice regardless if it is a bad choice, if it was a good choice. If that choice comes with consequences, it's still a choice.
Consent. There are many, many risk factors, especially knowing that there's no long-term studies, not one.
Sorry, time's up.
Thank you. My next claim is that RFK Jr. is a health threat.
Yes. That man is unhinged.
I think when you're trying to put someone in a position of authority of a health agency, you want it to be a person who understands science and follows factual narratives.
So if RFK appeals to other experts that are anti-vax because they've seen sufficient evidence otherwise, would that be heretical?
Yeah, he's saying if you're going to be a leader of an entire health organization, then yes, you should always trust facts over your opinions. Facts over your opinions, because your opinions is going to be detrimental to that entire organization and the millions of lives that are going to be at stake with your opinions. So yes, that's like Donald Trump. You have to put your facts over your opinions as a presidential leader. As a presidential leader, you need to put your facts over your opinions. Of course, 100%. Can you have those opinions? Yes, nobody's stopping you from having those opinions. Should you enclose your opinions on everybody else and take your opinions over the facts of the matter at hand, especially when it comes to something as big as millions and millions of people's health? Yeah, facts over opinions.
I
100%.
RFK stances of why he's a public health threat go past the anti-vaccine stances. He's made public statements that HIV doesn't cause AIDS, that poppers, which is a party drug or a recreational drug that people use, is really the reason why AIDS exists. That is not someone who clearly understands science, and I don't want them in charge of a health agency.
Okay, assuming he does become head of the health department, wouldn't he now technically be considered the expert, not an expert, but...
Oh, this is old.
No.
So then, if he put something forth that was anti-vax, and he said we have sufficient evidence to prove this, and then other medical experts such as you, which are pro-vax, went against it, wouldn't now you be categorized as the wrong ones?
No, because it's not based on a single person's opinion. This is a consensus-driven
I'm
statement
saying.
driven by thousands of doctors, dozens of agencies, not just here in the United States, but worldwide as well.
Okay, do you allow your patients to write bad reviews about you if they had a bad experience?
It's not my choice to write it or not write it.
No, do you allow them? Or would you remove it?
No,
No what?
I would not remove it.
Okay, so if we look at Facebook, Google, YouTube, they suppressed so many anti-vax posts, legitimate declarations of they were injured, serious deaths. ABC News went on Facebook and they posted a simple question. Who do you know?
You know what? I'm sorry, but I'm so sick about hearing suppression for free speech and just a general I'm so sick of hearing this talk, because especially when they talk about suppression and stuff like that. It's just how many days has it been? Just a day or two ago, I reacted to the TERF student that got arrested for protesting against Israel. Not even protesting, but just pointing out her university's flaws when it came to supporting Israel and not showing enough compassion for Palestine. And she was here on a valid visa. Came into the country to study. She was what was her major? PhD, something in human services, I believe. And she was on her way. If you guys don't know about what happened, she was on her way somewhere with friends, and DHS agents approached her very threateningly, and they took her into custody. It was a heartbreaking. I don't even know the words for that video. It was just so unsettling. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. It was very unsettling to watch. And I absolutely hate, and I'm not going to point this at him because I'm sure that I don't know his opinions when it comes to issues like free speech, but assuming that he doesn't like being suppressed from free speech. Oh shoot, wait 1 second. Did my camera just die? Question mark. Let me make sure. Okay, we're good. I just want to make sure that my camera is good. I saw a notification. Where was I at? I'm rambling, I'm sorry. But I like to ramble. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, I'm not sure if his specific opinion about free speech is this. But assuming that he doesn't like free speech being what's the word I'm looking for? Suppressed. Yeah, assuming he doesn't like free speech being suppressed, and he would also should advocate for people being able to protest and say their opinions with no limitations to free speech. It is insane that university students are getting deported for showing their support for Palestine. That is insane to me. Insane. The First Amendment is here, and they are just completely abolishing it. And I can't, I know, these are, you have to think from a perspective, I'm going into college in May. And if I was from, and if I was not from the U.S. and I saw the tragic things that are happening in Palestine and that war overall, and I showed my support for a Pacific side, then I would absolutely, I would be like, I would be terrified for at risk to getting deported because I went to state my own opinions. And you know what? I say to everybody who is pro-Israel, and on that side of the spectrum, this pro-Israel, conservative, Democrat, Republican, you have to see that this is terrible. And this is a step in America that we shouldn't want and that we do not need. Because you have to think of it, if that was a pro-Israel person, a person protesting and saying that the way that people are, if it was a pro-Israel student that was protesting and they got deported because of stating their opinions, I promise you, they would be just as mad as we are right now. And it is absolutely, I always try to see both sides in every perspective I can. And people just really don't have the decency to do that anymore, which is so sickening. And I know I went on a rant about this whole thing, but I just had to bring that up because I hate seeing when people talk about free speech when it comes to things that they don't agree with, then they're just like, oh, yep, we need to suppress that. We need to suppress that. That shouldn't be brought online. Like, what? What? It's insane.
Or yourself, that was...
Like, oh my, okay, I'm not even going to get into it. This video is going to be long.
Right, but you can create any sort of statement, and in healthcare, we can't just go off of any statement because someone feels subjectively to be true. We have to do our best to do with limited information that we can. It doesn't mean we have zero information. We should just believe anyone. In fact, have you seen these podcast hosts who have protocols by which they
Like
sleep,
Gary Brecka?
eat, or Gary Brecka or otherwise? The reason why I don't subscribe to their protocols is because anyone can make a claim about anything, just like RFK does with these statements. Until someone backs up these claims with good substantial evidence, and there is a hierarchy of what good substantial evidence is, we won't believe those stats. The same way that if you sat across from me right now and told me you're the fastest human on earth at 100 meters, you might be telling the truth. Provisionally, subjectively, it might be true. The only way I'll know it's true is if we have an Olympic timekeeper with an Olympic device measured with the proper measuring tape. Then I can witness it, and then I can see it's true.
Okay, pause. Sorry, you've been voted out by the majority.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Mike?
Yes. Hi, how are you?
Luna. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
There's so much trust invested in you.
Vermont.
And your research and how you look at things and how you look at data. So I imagine you have a mountain of stuff to look at. When you mentioned the RFK thing, right away what got in my head is like, I don't know nothing about him really, but I know he was a Democrat. If I'm not correct, somebody...
He was
Not anymore.
For president as a Democrat.
Okay, so that's why that was a big thing when you transitioned to...
He's
Trump, right?
flip-floppy.
That was like a big political move.
Yeah, for sure.
Just like everybody else.
Does that
Good
have a bias
job.
if you don't like Trump?
No.
From their father, Trump.
What's interesting about this anti-vax movement is people are very quick to label it left, right, center. It's not. If you look back at the history of
anybody,
it started initially on the left in Democratic circles.
Yeah.
And then over the last few years with the COVID-19 pandemic, it's become more prevalent on the right. But it's not mutually exclusive. It happens all across the board. And I empathize with you as a new father, how difficult it is making this decision, hearing all these statements, because ultimately you have to decide what to do. Yeah. And if you choose to get the vaccine or you choose not to get the vaccine, both of those carry consequences.
Yes. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
To call me a villain, even though I haven't been a villain before, I've been an incarcerated person, to put me now as a villain as I'm trying to be a protective father.
Why do they keep saying villain? You are not the main character to the story. He's not saying that you are a villain. He's just saying that you are actively putting people at risk from not getting vaccinated. And that is a fact. That is a fact. If you have the flu and you didn't get vaccinated for the flu, and now you're in a household with about 2 other people, you're putting them at risk because you didn't get vaccinated to not get that flu. So yes, that is a fact. If you have COVID-19 and you didn't get vaccinated for COVID-19, and your kid catches it because you didn't get vaccinated for COVID-19, and your kid didn't get vaccinated for COVID-19, now your kid is sick and they're going to school because you didn't let them stay at home. So now they're going to school, and now there's about 3 other kids that have COVID-19, and maybe they didn't get vaccinated either. So now it's just going to spread around, and then, oh wait, this kid got vaccinated. Boom. They might get sick. Will they get as sick? No. I think people forget that vaccines, they can prevent it, but vaccines in itself is to prevent crazy effects like death. So yes, you might be a villain. You might be a villain. Because that is very villainous. Just because your opinion, you're now putting thousands, hundreds, even 20 other people at risk. Because you didn't want to get vaccinated because your opinion. Now other people are at risk and somebody's grandma died because you didn't want to get vaccinated. Whoa. Look where that brought us.
To the tribe that I'm entitled,
And now y'all got my rap falling off.
It's really
My hair looks so bad right now.
My statements, I would never call you a villain in this situation. I think you actually fall into the victim part of this situation.
Okay.
The villain of the situation is more with this claim about RFK Jr. when he knows things to not be true and he uses that
Says it anyways. Yes.
To progress his career.
Yes.
I think that's what you were trying to do, so I don't think you're the villain in this situation.
So this is website that I think he's part of. It's called childrenhealthdefense.org.
Excuse me.
It's his organization.
Have you watched anything from there or looked at anything?
Sure, I've seen clips.
Okay, did you watch the Unvaxxed video?
No, not the Unvaxxed video.
I highly suggest to watch it. I mean, my concern is you don't have the means to look at the data of the persons that are.
I'm sorry, but anti-vaxxers, they just seem like very conspiracy-esque. Very conspiracy-esque. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with conspiracy theories. Don't get me wrong. When I tell you guys, I had so many other YouTube channels like this one. But not like this one in particular. But I had other YouTube channels in the past. And I had one channel in particular about conspiracy theories like mermaids and skinwalkers and fairies and all that. I used to make videos on that types of stuff. So I love a good conspiracy theory. But when a conspiracy theory comes at risk of people getting in harm's way, and a conspiracy theory is much bigger than you and your opinion and can affect people on a global scale, then that's where it becomes an issue. Because your opinions and what you're saying is contributing to many different factors that's going on in the world. And I don't know if that makes sense because I'm tired, but you guys get what I'm trying to say.
You're not vaccinated, and how would you know? Because they're not going to the doctor to check on you regardless. So how can you say that there's not a better option if someone says, I don't feel safe for that? All this stuff mounts up on my decision to be like, dang, am I a villain? Because
I mean, eventually it's your choice if you get it or not.
Try to change all these things. I mean,
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to cut you off. You've been voted out by the majority.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing your story.
I want the black man to get up. He not getting up fast enough for me.
Hello.
Good to see you.
Bob Marley.
So I just want to say there have been.
Let me start disrespecting him like that. Roots.
Natural remedies, or even talking about working out.
I wouldn't even say that's disrespectful.
Fluoride out of the water.
Guys, I have to watch that new Bob Marley movie.
Say this?
I heard that it was okay.
Problems that are facing this country, cancer, diabetes.
But I feel like people are very critical when it comes to biopics.
Forever chemicals that are, yes, on clothes, but that even should be regulated as well, wouldn't you?
Everything's gonna be alright.
Everything RFK Jr. says is not necessarily wrong. The best analogy I can think of is if I have a clock that's broken, it's still right sometimes, but it doesn't mean I'm going to wear it and call it a good clock.
I love that. Have you been wrong before in your life?
Absolutely.
In your practice as a doctor? I've been wrong as well. And what I will say is all of us have the ability to atone. All of us have the ability to know new information. Yeah. And just like I hope that we can be able to trade information and look on the other side of the aisle and say, you know what, there are people who care about people. Yeah.
My camera good.
To realize that that's what you're surrounded by right now. We're not only talking about ourselves in terms of our own well-being and saying this is my choice, but also saying there is a big issue in this country as it pertains to the children. We could just look at the children, and even if we talk about, once again, the vaccine aspect of COVID and how COVID wasn't affecting children, but yet all of these other issues are, and they got to grow up in this world. Also, the idea for me that we have all of the testing and all of the evidence for COVID is also false. So when people are skeptical and people are like, you know, people say the disinformation doesn't, I say the divine information doesn't, because they were kind of prophets when you look at it. If you look back at...
You know what, I really don't like when people do that. I'm not even going to get into it because this video is so long. But
their old claims, a lot of things that they said came true. Even when we look at all of the things that Fauci was involved in, gain-of-function research, everything going on in that Wuhan lab in China.
Oh, shoot.
A lot of things that we can say. So I would hope that based off of this conversation, you could at least have a little bit of heart to say, you know what, maybe RFK is not just thinking about his career, but he's actually thinking about people. And I think all medical doctors are the same.
He's not. I promise you he's not. He really is just saying that for his career, and he wants to get a position by Donald Trump. Most of the issues that he was for, he is now against, because in a span of a couple months, maybe even a couple of weeks if I really look into it, in a span of a couple months, his opinions changed like that when he was offered a position in Trump's administration. So yes, it is just for his career. He is just doing it for his career. Because I promise you, he wouldn't say this type of stuff if he wasn't in the position that he's in.
Very charitable in speaking with me, and I actually really appreciate it. I'm here volunteering my time to try and just share what I've learned.
No money?
Knowledge what I would do.
You're not paying my guy no money.
Dilemma with vaccinating my future.
What?
And my goal is just to share the most accurate
information,
because when I started in health,
I can't even say that. I would do this for free. Not gonna lie.
Training, the amount of negative things people were doing to their health, like a lot of the metabolic.
But I'm pretty sure Jubilee is in LA. Y'all better pay for my plane ticket and my hotel. If I'm doing all this for free.
Like almost like doctors saying cigarette smoke is actually good for you.
Exactly. In fact, everything that we're doing in healthcare right now, like 50% of it.
Who said that?
Years will be found to be ineffective.
He can smell cigarette smoke.
And we'll go back to nature, right?
And some of it will go back to nature.
He wants to come back to nature so bad.
Sounds really good.
Bob Marley hit it. That's not it. So.
But he
really looks like Bob Marley.
Tetanus infection.
Stop. Y'all, come on. Cousins maybe? I hate that I can't zoom in on this picture. It's like actually so irritating. Looking at it for here, he kind of doesn't look like Bob Marley.
And some of it.
Wait.
Years will be found to be ineffective, or there's going to be something.
He was like a really sweet person, though.
Is actually good for
the next, and some of it.
Wait.
Years will be found to be ineffective, or there's going to be something better. And
we'll go back.
It over the next 100 years will be found to be ineffective, or there's going to be something better.
And we'll go back.
He doesn't have as wide as a smile as Bob Marley. But in this, where's that picture at? I would just this one. They have similar face structures. But do y'all see it? Or the more I click back and forth, the more he don't look like him. Yeah. I think I said Bob Marley because of this color scheme and the dreads and the skin complexion. Very similar. But Bob Marley dreads is like fucking New York, or not Florida type, big ass. I really need to watch that Bob Marley documentary. I really do want to watch that. Okay, my bad, Roots. You're probably not watching, but if you're watching, I was wrong. You don't look like Bob Marley. You're your own person. And you know what? Because I was wrong, I'm gonna take a nice walk outside today. I'm gonna take a nice walk outside today. No phone, no nothing. I'm gonna enjoy the environment because that is something I do need to do. I'm not gonna lie.
And some of it will go back to nature. Like, going back to nature sounds really good, but there's also a little bit of a fallacy in that. So, like, in nature, people walk barefoot, but we don't choose to walk barefoot because we don't want to get tetanus infection from the floor and get cuts on our feet. There's
chemical-induced floors that we're putting all of these bleaches, these things that are
exactly forever chemicals in our watch bands.
But grounding is a thing. Earthing is a thing that has proven to help with.
So how do we balance a healthy lifestyle of being?
I do agree with that.
Modern science.
I'm a spiritual person.
We can do it, right?
Yeah.
Because allopathic medicine did rule out. Once again, I think I brought up the flexibility.
Not a heavy spiritual person like Roots,
I'm
but
an osteopathic physician. So I think more of the holistic approach than a traditional allopathic physician would. I did not go to an allopathic medical school, and I am very passionate about one thing that I feel like is lost in modern healthcare: the body's ability to heal itself.
Yes. Amen.
And I think that sometimes
Roots is like, this is my type of guy.
Control than what we actually have. Like, for example, do you think wearing a seatbelt saves lives?
It can, yeah, for sure.
Has it ever saved yours?
No.
Have you worn it?
That's an amazing point.
I have not worn it all the time.
The
but
majority
I
of
can
the
see.
time. You regularly wear it.
Yeah, for sure.
Does that mean it was stupid to have done so?
I don't, but I need to start wearing a seatbelt. Just so uncomfortable,
So there's
but
some people that believe, like anti-vaxxers believe vaccines are harmful without great evidence, that seatbelts can cause you to get trapped and et cetera, and actually
You're
cause
saying
more
anti-vaxxers
problems.
believe that?
I have heard about
like
that.
Anti-vaxxers believe negative beliefs about vaccines that are not well proven. Some people say that about seatbelts. Some people say that the world is not round and they believe it to be flat.
Now, can you compare vaccine skepticism with really seatbelt skepticism? Like
yes, you can. It's actually an amazing comparison because of those beliefs and all of those opinions and people not wearing their seatbelt because you believe that it is not beneficial for them and that they shouldn't be doing it because it's creating these types of problems. Because they're not wearing their seatbelt, they could potentially die in a car crash or any other type of car incident because they were not wearing their seatbelt because of your opinion and what you told them to be correct. So now they didn't wear a seatbelt and they have sadly passed away. And so yes, and they are not only put your opinion not only might jeopardize your life, but it jeopardizes theirs. And that is the same thing when we're talking about vaccines. Because your opinion is not factual, and because they did not take that vaccine, they have now, that 60-year-old woman has now died because she was scared to take her vaccine, and now she has passed away because of COVID-19. So yes, or any other type of disease, the flu, the pox, anything else in that criteria of deadly diseases. So yes, it's an amazing comparison. I love that Mike brought that up. That is an amazing comparison.
That really weighs,
I
especially
think
when
the
people have been
principle-
injured from vaccines. This is a real thing that
People have been injured by seatbelts.
I understand. So I'm gonna give somebody else the time, but my claim is pretty much
Roots, I love you, but
for a lot of different things that are going on in this country right now. That
he is right. You know it.
COVID.
I would love for someone else to stand up for those things as opposed to our
I think
but we
you
agree
as well,
with it.
right?
Yeah.
Roots, you know that was 100% true. Shoot.
Hellos.
Oh, no.
Oh, it's just Queen again. I like her.
The Maha movement,
Jennifer.
Make America Healthy Again. As a mom and as a woman, it speaks to a lot of people because, especially as a nurse as well, and seeing the chronic disease epidemic.
She's a nurse?
We spend more in healthcare
Whoa.
than any other country.
That's
we're more
terrifying.
medicated than any other country, but yet we're not healthy. And I don't necessarily always agree with everything that RFK Jr. says. I mean, I don't agree with my husband on everything, and I literally chose him, let alone some random politician. So I could see why you could probably disagree with it, but I think he speaks to something to a lot of people. He appeals to the parent. He appeals to like just the everyday.
He appeals to conspiracy theorists.
And that's what I think I disagree.
That's what he
with,
appeals to,
that he's a
Buki.
threat, because I think his intentions come from a good place. He's not necessarily anti-vaccine, but he wants safe vaccines.
Yeah, so I'm pointing out that I think RFK Jr. is a threat to public health, and you're pointing out reasons why he's good. And I think there are legitimate reasons of things that he says that are valuable that should be addressed. He said a lot of things that I think risk children's lives in the future. I think by potentially getting rid of vaccines, increasing...
I love how they're both doctors and they're wearing blue tops. That's iconic.
Okay, pause. You've been voted out by the majority.
That was quick. I thought the time ran off for a second. Not my queen. I like her and Roots. I love both of them. I want to see a black man talk.
Hi.
Hello.
Again.
Right when I said that.
RFK Jr.
Hey,
has
Jackie.
been revealing so much of what we have been needing to know about health, and again,
Oh, brother.
things that have been hidden from us. I mean, I'm a YouTuber, right? I have a YouTube channel, and when I talked about the vaccine, I was censored, and he wants to bring back the freedom of speech. He wants to bring back the power.
And I hope that you stand by that for other people's opinions. I 100% hope that you stand by that for other people's opinions. I truly do hope that you stand by that for other people's opinions. And you know what? You guys might ask me, well, Danica, would you say the same if somebody was against the trans community? Would you say they deserve the right to free speech? Yes! Yes, it is illegal for you to have restrictions against your free speech, against your First Amendment. So yes, do I agree with you? Do I like your opinion? Do I like what you're saying? Do I think that it is very harmful? Yes, 100%. Are you able to say that? Should you be able to say that? Because it is your First Amendment right? Yes, you should. You should.
The people, and we have been.
Don't get me started on free speech, please.
Oppressed by Big Pharma and by.
Cause that orange-shaped fruit, Donald Trump.
Freedom back.
Don't know the definition of it.
My friend Liana Warner Gray, she is the author of The Earth Diet. She had cancer right here, a tumor, and she got healed through organic foods. She is a huge.
Good for her.
Of RFK and Maha, and she talks about how this is.
I think that we do need to be very understanding that because her friend was able to get through that shipment through organic products, that is amazing for her. But that is not everybody else. You always have to take in consideration that you are one or two out of billions in the entire world. You and your point of view and what you see and what you hear and what you read is completely just like out of orbit when it comes to the entire world. You know, like what you do, what's good for you, what's best for you is going to be completely different for somebody that needs that treatment, that needs some vaccines, and that needs that medical help. So amazing for her that she was able to get through what she was going through organic products, but that is not everybody that has cancer, has some type of cancer disease.
Heal the world is through the natural medicine of God. God gave.
Oh shit! I want to bang my desk so bad, but my camera is taped onto my PC, so I will not do that at risk of my thing dropping. But God! And we just got done watching Christian liberals versus Christian conservative women. And that was a headache. It was a headache. and if you guys watch that video, you should watch it if you haven't. It's gonna pop up somewhere around here. If you haven't watched that video, you need to watch that video because it was so annoying, but it was also very fun and entertaining to watch. But God, like, oh my God. Oh my God. And I would consider myself a believer in God. I would consider myself a Christian, but I am in no means a Christian, like a diehard Christian. Like, I always question my beliefs. I always question if this is real, and I'm always questioning. I'm always putting the pieces together. I just think when it comes to some Christians, not even some, the majority of Christians, I'm not even going to label it as the majority. I'll say some, because there are many Christians around the world. When it comes to some of the Christians in the world, they can just be so toxic. Like, the way they think is just so toxic. But like I said, they have the right to free speech, so I really can't do anything about it. But it's a harmful 100%. And there's actually been times when Christians have stated their opinions that has swiveled me off of wanting to even consider myself being a Christian because of what they say, how they say it, and what they do. It's just so harmful. And there are so many harmful Christians in the world. And churches, it takes a long time for you to find a really good church. I remember when I was younger, my grandma used to take us to this church, and it was like amazing. I love that church, but unfortunately it shut down. But it was just so, it has a good place in my heart. But seeing Christians like this, I can't. I'm sorry.
God gave us everything that we needed. The reality is, if we don't get vaccinated with Jesus, we will face God on Judgment Day. It's not just about health. It's about freedom of speech. It's about the government's trying to kill us. Even Bill Gates had, I think it was kind of like a TED Talk, but he had like,
Why was he talking about Bill Gates?
Hello, pleasure.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
When you look at people that are proponents of the vaccine, especially in important capacities, like if we take the example of Jay Barma, he was a COVID czar
Almost done.
at the peak of COVID, and he was a public health advisor under Bill de Blasio, and he's having private gatherings in August of 2020. It was a sex party, right? So 8 to 10 people, and I think it's really funny too because
You're saying he's being hypocritical.
Yeah, he's being hypocritical.
Of course.
And
do you know who the number one hypocrites are? Healthcare providers.
Right.
We're the worst patients. We're the worst at following our own advice.
And that essentially proves what I'm trying to say, because it's like, if you're advocating for the vaccine, but you're doing the exact opposite.
Can I ask if you think that if you are sharing accurate information, but you might not be following the same stances, you could still be sharing accurate information? So in this case, he was saying that we should be social distancing or not having parties, and he had party in this situation, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So is there a world where he's telling the truth, you shouldn't be doing this thing,
Okay.
but he did that thing, and that's
And
not
I'm
good?
also doing it?
Yeah.
No. But I'm saying that it's wrong that he did it, but it's right that he's sharing the right information. Is that
Yeah, it's like sharing that you shouldn't take drugs, but then he ends up taking drugs.
True, but
Yeah.
Sorry, you've been voted out by the majority.
Okay.
Please return to your seat.
Yeah.
Great point, guys.
Hello.
Hello, pleasure.
How are you?
Nice to
What's
meet
your
you.
mic? My name's Jeanette.
Oh my God, no.
I'm an educator. I'm a conscious sex therapist. So I deal with longevity, preserving the body.
I'm so
and
sick
I
of seeing her in
think
Jubilee
real
videos.
People like Fauci, right? Did you know that his salary is like $500K? and the highest they said, and he's worth 11 million. Crazy. Maybe he's getting the rest of that money. But and then let me go on just real quick.
Sure.
And
Like,
then,
okay.
something interesting I thought too when you were talking about the VAERS studies that there was said that there was like 40 million adverse reactions, not including the deaths. And with polio, because I want to talk more about like child vaccine, because I'm a mom and all that stuff. But polio, which came out in 1968, only had 123K, and tetanus had 15K. So it's crazy, right? These have been around for ages. But anyway, that's B-side. So the villains, I think, are.
Who the fact checks keep showing up?
Thank you.
But doctors, you know, when I was okay, so we have something in common.
I'm too tired to even comment about her right now.
Story. But when I had my son, I decided, you know, I want to do this clean. I want to be clean. I don't want to do vaccines. And they made me feel, like you said, like the most terrible mom. So we have these doctors and the drug companies who are making us feel like we're the villains, but they're the villains, because health should be a matter of choice, right? The problem is we're not healthy anymore, right?
It is a choice.
Or they tried to force me to get vaccines all the way through my pregnancy. Why do we want to vaccinate newborns with Hep B? What are they? Are they having anal sex and intravenous needles or getting tattoos in utero? My son wasn't.
Well,
oh, brother.
Not just spread by all those things that you mentioned.
Right.
But there's children that get it from sharing food utensils, biting one another in preschool.
Like newborn doctor? I mean, you have to understand. Newborn, like my son.
They go to daycare where there's a lot of other children that.
Right, but not in the first few hours of life. Like the best thing they need is breast milk, and like for me to like feel like I was forced to do that. Anyways, I went almost a year.
Well, were you forced?
I wasn't, but they did try to force me. They make you feel like you're a terrible mom. I refused all the vaccines while pregnant, and then I was already on welfare. So
I'm about to say something, but let me not.
I chose to feel like I was the villain when they were vilifying me. And so just to go back, because I wanted some of the other prompts about like the immunity and things like that, which I think is really important to talk about, because my son was in school. He was in preschool, but he didn't go until he was almost a year. I'm sorry. I'm sleep deprived. All the vaccines until he was almost a year. When I put him into preschool, because I was in a program to like go to school and you get welfare, you get the child care covered, all that stuff, right? So no vaccines. My son was never sick a day in his life.
That's your son.
Nursed him until he was 7.
God, it's not everybody.
It's weird, but in other cultures they do it.
7.
During COVID, someone said it. We traveled to like 20 countries, and neither one of us got it, and neither one of us are vaccinated until
that is you guys.
Forced me to get it.
Oh my God, that's not everybody.
Back to like, why
there are billions of people in the world. Your opinion doesn't matter.
A lot of my friends and people that know me,
your
experience. They forced it. They told me I go to Vistaprint. So what happens is when you take that right, and you said you didn't know how many states have that privilege, the religious exemptions, all of them do except for 3, California being one of them, sadly, Mississippi and West Virginia. So we were not able to just say, listen, it's my body, my choice, my religious beliefs. As someone said, I want to decide for myself and my son.
Yeah, so you're sharing the story of your son, and I'm so glad that
did.
It worked out that your son didn't get one of these vaccine-preventable illnesses. We largely don't see a lot of these vaccine-preventable illnesses because of vaccines. Smallpox, polio, measles for the most part, all of these vaccine-preventable illnesses are no longer seen. And that's partially why that if a single person doesn't get a vaccine, they end up not getting billions.
Yeah. Did you get me something?
No.
Bro!
What?
Why don't you give me nothing?
I'll just finish that point because it's so valuable. And you're sharing the story about your child, and I'm so happy that because I never want a child to get sick.
Huh?
That's on necklace and a facial water.
I have people in my practice, because I'm a family medicine doctor, I treat children and adults, who are 95 years old, 100 years old. who have smoked all their life.
Yeah.
And they're healthy.
They're healthy. It's weird. I know. It happens.
But does that mean I'm going to use that as a reason as to why I shouldn't discourage people from smoking?
I understand that, but the herd immunity concept, this brings me back to my next point. I used to get like nailed to the cross before he was vaccinated. And even when he did, I'd only let them do one at a time. Because the problem is...
How much did you pay for the vaccines?
I didn't. Remember, I'm poor. I'm on welfare at this time.
So, look at this.
So I was forced.
We're paying for medical care to
Right.
prevent and save you the trouble of an illness.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Oh, Dr. Mike, it's good to meet you. I'm Hunter Howell. Oh man, it's a beautiful day, isn't it? So when it comes to the science, right, back in the day it was labeled misinformation if you were to question the validity of, for example, masks. But just out of last year, an epidemiologist, Tom Jefferson, came out with a rigorous analysis that stated that they had no effect benefiting people in terms of the reduction of getting respiratory illness, including COVID-19. Right? You have Anthony Fauci, which I know we've talked about today, in regards to the social distancing. Right? It was trust him, trust the science. But he said in a congressional House subcommittee that there was no science behind it, and he got grilled for that. So when we're demonized and we're talked about years ago that we're, these anti-vaxxers, these skeptics, these really bad people, and that we're villains, well, not only are we not villains, we're speaking the truth, and we were censored on it. So I would kind of like your thoughts on that, about, all of the information I said.
I view someone as an anti-vaxxer that knows the data exists as it is, and then spreads things that are not true.
Yeah, we just talked about this.
Stretches the truth in a way to make things valuable for them. The people that I have seen being anti-vaxxers, I think that they're being villains by spreading that misinformation because they're leading people to make bad decisions about their health care.
So, to correct me if I'm wrong, you're villainizing people for exercising their First Amendment right in the Constitution of free speech?
No, I
Free
think
speech.
that when you're starting to say things that
That's not
impact
free
other people's
speech.
decisions, I view it negatively through a negative lens, knowing what I know about vaccines.
So then could we also flip the narrative and say that they were harming people in the information that they were giving out?
No, the people
No, 'cause it's
took
saving
the
people.
COVID vaccine had a lower death rate significantly. In fact, when we were working in the hospitals, those, especially early on, those who were most sick and who were sick by larger numbers were people who weren't vaccinated.
I think a lot of people in here, including myself, have a huge distrust, of course, in the United States government and in the mainstream media, as well as in the science.
What led to your distrust?
Well, the fact that they got it wrong. You can't villainize people or call them villains just because they disagree. When they disagree, they can be talking with facts, things of substance that are true, as many people here have said today.
It's
not coming
not.
from a state of emotion. The death rate
It's
of
not.
COVID, I know it fluctuated on the time frame, but it was under 1%. From December to January of 2022, the CDC has the numbers on it. It was less than 0.5%, less than 0.1%. It was 0.06%. People were dying of it. Now, don't get me wrong, that's terrible. But with all of the information we know now, how can we still villainize people that are anti-vaccine completely due to how much that the government and Big Pharma got this?
I'll answer that question with one simple sentence based on something you just said.
Okay.
About 100+ million lives have been saved by vaccines.
From the Lancet, yes.
From the Lancet. And you agree with that stat, approximately?
I agree with the Lancet's findings, yes.
And yet you have anti-vaxxer like RFK Jr. saying statements like there's no such thing as a safe vaccine. That's a villain.
Yeah, so
I think someone's a villain when vaccines, you just said, saved over 100 million lives. And
And you're sitting here saying that no vaccines are,
I
yeah.
think that was a little bit out of context.
Yeah, Mike, tell him.
Vaccines, once again, he's giving his opinion off the information that he knows to be true. You can't villainize.
But it's not true information. And because you're spreading out not true information, you're the villain.
Current potential of RFK Jr. coming in.
Okay, I'm gonna stop this here because this has been already a very long video and I don't want to make my video too long because I know I talked a lot. So we're gonna stop this here. Y'all, I just realized that freaking, oh my god, I just realized that when I hit the end button, I didn't record my whole outro, so I'm gonna do that now because I accidentally ended it, and I'm so sick of accidentally cutting out my outros. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to like and subscribe. Tell me your favorite hot take down below. I cannot wait to react to some more stuff. I have a lot of stuff planned. I do want to react to some stuff outside of the political aspect. So maybe some movie trailer or so. Trust me, I'm gonna be on that Spider-Man trailer when it comes out. Trust. I don't know. I'll find something to react to. Tell me you guys' favorite hot take from this video down below. And again, make sure to like and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.